Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're here with my November wrap up. If you saw my November TBR, you would know that I was very skeptical on what I could read in November if I was going to read anything, because I was very much in a reading slump at the beginning of the month. However, I'm pleased to announce that I kicked that reading slump in the bum. Woo! And I read a total of 9 books in November, which is very exciting. I'm very happy with that progress, which means now I have read 90 books this year and have 10 left to reach 100 books for 2020, which is crazy to say, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna smash it, but leave good thoughts in the comments down below, and fingers crossed for me to reach 100 books, because it's such an achievement for me to be able to read that much, so fingers crossed. But back to the video, November wrap up. I read a total of 9 books. It was a very good reading month for me, to be fair. I only think I rated one book 3 stars, the rest were either 4 or 5 stars, which is perfect for leaving the end of the year on a high, which is brilliant. The first book I read and finished in November was a book that I'd actually started when I filmed my November TBR, and that is The Danger Gang by Tom Fletcher. This is obviously a middle grade, if you couldn't tell by the cover and just how cool and colourful it is. And look at that naked hardback. This book is just beautiful, and it was so much fun to read. I'm so glad I started off the month on a high with this book. I rated it a 4 star. This is Tom Fletcher's 4th full-length middle grade book, and I've loved every single one of his books that he's released. They're just so magical, so whimsical, so well written. Obviously I'm not the target audience, but I still really enjoy them. Sometimes I'm like, that's a bit far-fetched, but then I kind of put myself in the shoes and the mind of a child, and I'll be like, if I was reading this when I was like 8 to 11, that's probably what the age range is for this sort of book, I would absolutely love it. And I still love it as an adult, not gonna lie. Such a guilty pleasure. This book basically follows a young boy called Frankie who lives in a town called Freaky, which he has just recently moved to because his mum is like a mad scientist, and she has to move for a new job, and he starts a new school, and when one of his mum's kind of machines starts to go a bit funny, the whole town starts to go a bit funny, and Frankie and the Danger Gang, which is a group of friends from his school, try and solve the unsolved mystery of why this town has loads of things going wrong with it. There's stuff like people growing too big, people growing back to babies, like so much adventure and fun in this book, and I think it was just so well written, and Tom really made you transport to this world. I was so invested in this book. I love the characters. Frankie was such a cool main character. I absolutely adored him. And it was just an all-round fun book, and I think this might actually be one of my favourite Tom Fletcher books, which is saying a big statement because The Christmas Stories by Tom Fletcher is one of my favourite middle grades of all time. So yeah, this is definitely took competition from The Christmas Stories for sure. I adored this book so much. The next book I read in November, I kept on the middle grade train because I didn't want to lose my reading momentum that I just picked back up. So I reached for Drumroll Please by Lisa Jenn Bigelow. This is another middle grade, obviously, about a girl called Melissa Melly, whose best friend Olivia kind of drags her to a musical summer camp for the summer, because Melly loves playing the drums. It's the way she expresses herself, as her parents are in the middle of a divorce. And during the summer, she really kind of discovers herself. They kind of fall out during the summer, and Melly kind of falls for another girl, and they start to spend time together, and it's just so sweet of a book. I really enjoyed this. I didn't like Olivia as the side character. I think she was really annoying and quite, I would say selfish. I do think she was quite selfish. She was like, she found this boy that she liked, and then she went off and left Melly alone when she was one who dragged Melly to the summer camp. So I didn't really like Olivia as a best friend. I don't think she was very supportive. I just, no thank you. Olivia can go. But Melly, on the other hand, and her kind of romantic interest, new best friend sort of side character, I've forgotten what her name is, but that's beside the point. Those two were brilliant characters. I love them so much. This book definitely reminded me of Camp Rock mixed with Parent Trap. So if you liked either of those movies, I do think, and you like middle grade, I do think this book would be right up your street. I really enjoyed it, and it was just a cute, fun read to get through. Very much enjoyed my time reading this one. And we're on to another middle grade. Can you see a theme here? The next book I picked up was Wonderscape by Jennifer Bell. I think I read this in pretty much like 2 days, but it wasn't my favourite book. I just don't think I like adventure fantasy kind of middle grade books. I much rather read like contemporary real life sort of books when it comes to middle grade, apart from Tom Fletcher, he's an exception. I just didn't really vibe with this. It definitely reminded me of Ready Player One in the aspect where kids get transported to this real world video game and have to complete different levels to kind of finish the game and get back to reality. Games that happened in this book had been done before. I don't think it was very unique. I know a lot of people like this book, and it has like a 4 point something rating on Goodreads, but it just wasn't for me, and I didn't really vibe with it. I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I didn't really like the writing style. The plot was enjoyable here and there, but not all the way through. It had very much up and down plot-wise. Like, I enjoyed one game of the video game in general, like The Realm, and then I didn't like another bit, and then I liked another bit, and I thought the ending was very, very far-fetched. So, yes, not a massive fan of this one. Oh, by the way, I gave Drumroll Please a 4 stars, and I gave Wonderscape a 3 stars. So still enjoyable, just compared to the other 2 middle grades I'd read that month, this one was definitely the least favourite. And now we're coming out of the middle grades I read this month. I was finally out of my reading slump, so I was back into normal reading territory, which is YA and adult for me. So the first book I read that wasn't a middle grade this month, and that book was I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kit Frick. I really, really enjoyed this book. I didn't know what to expect when I came into it. I just heard about it and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So obviously I picked it up because BookTube makes me do that a lot. But this book basically follows a girl called, I've forgotten her name, Anna, who hasn't had the best track record and is trying to change her life and get back on track before she goes off to university. So she takes this nannying job in the Hamptons and tries to have a really good summer so she can start fresh for college in the new semester. However, when she gets to this new town and starts babysitting, the village kind of look at her differently because they remind her of a girl called Zoe who has recently been murdered in this town, and she looks a lot like her, and people start to like speculate. Anna then starts to have memories that she doesn't recollect, and she feels like she's been here before, but she just doesn't know why or how. So she starts to question herself, question her surroundings, and try and kind of solve the mystery of Zoe, as well as kind of what her connection is to her. So I really, really enjoyed this book. It's not like the most page-turny thriller mystery, but the way Kit Frick wrote the story and the way it all interlinked and connected, I think was really, really well done. And I did enjoy the ending. And just the whole story in general, I really liked Anna as a main character, and I think it was just written really well. This book definitely reminded me of Sadie by Courtney Summers. I haven't read that book. I started reading it as an audiobook and then I didn't vibe with it, so I put it to the side and I haven't re-picked it up. But it has a podcast element in this book as well, so it's very Sadie-esque. If you like Sadie, I think you would actually quite like this book as well. I gave it a 4 stars, really, really enjoyed it, highly recommend it. If you're looking for a different take on a mystery thriller, I think this was a really good one. And then we come to a very, very exciting portion of the month where I did a collab with M from A Little Writer M, where we tested each other's favourite books. Basically, we have recently discovered that we have very, very similar reading tastes, and we wanted to kind of put that to the test. So she read 3 of my favourite books in video, and then I read 3 of her favourite books in my video. So if you want to see either of those videos, I'll link them up above and down below for you guys. But I do go into a lot more depth of the 3 books I'm about to mention in that video. If you want more information, more conclusion, more well-rounded thoughts, I would go over to that video. But the first book in that video is Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein. This was my favourite book of the month. I gave it 5 stars. It was amazing. I loved it. The next book I picked up as part of the video was Emily's favourite book of all time, After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I had really high expectations when I was going into this because it is Em's favourite book of pretty much all time. So I was expecting a lot, and I did really, really enjoy it, and I discovered that I loved Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing style. It was brilliant. I loved it. And I did enjoy the plot. I just don't think the trope that was in this story is really for me. This book follows a couple called Lauren and Ryan, who have been together for about 13 years, married for 6, and they come to a point in their relationship where they're very stagnant. They're kind of starting to hate each other. They've been in each other's pockets for way too long now, and they decide to take a break, a year apart, where anything goes, just they can't contact each other, and you follow Lauren on this year apart where she tries to discover herself away from Ryan and find out what her hobbies are that isn't being a wife. And she really starts to connect with other people, especially her family, who she has kind of neglected during her relationship with Ryan. Just didn't give me that 5-star feeling. I gave it a 4 stars in the end. A very enjoyable book, just not my favourite. I just don't think I like this trope. I've read a book similar to this trope in the past, The Break by Marion Keyes, and again, I didn't really like the going apart and coming back together. I don't think it's for me, but enjoyable read, just not my favourite. And then the last book I read as part of that video is Pretending by Holly Bourne. This was a brilliant book too. Em has some incredible book recommendations. So if you've got a similar reading taste to me, go check out her channel. You won't regret it. Trigger warnings, by the way, for sexual assault, abusive relationships, and everything to do in that sort of topic. This book basically follows April after coming out of a really abusive relationship and trying to come to terms with who she is now. She can't be that girl she used to be, and trying to fix her life by finding a guy that's going to love her for who she is, until she discovers that's not possible. So she creates this persona and this facade in the context of a person called Gretel, who's fictional, made up. She becomes Gretel and falls for a guy in a relationship, and she pretends to be this other person because she thinks that's the type of person that guys fall for, until she realises that she can't keep it up and the guy likes her for who she is. It's such a self-discovery book, and the female relationships in this book are they're so good, and I just loved the way it was written about. The topic was spoken about in such a rich and powerful way. I really enjoyed it, but please stay away from this book if you have trigger warnings for abusive relationships, sexual assault, etc., because the whole book is based around that. It's not like a little bit, it's the entire of 400 pages. So just be wary of that, but I highly recommend this book if you are capable of reading about that topic, because I think it's such an empowering read. I don't want you guys to miss out on it because it was just incredible. I gave it 4 stars. Once again, it just didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but still such an incredible read. And then the last book I read in November was a reread, just for the sake of it really, but I'm kind of glad I reread it. At this point I was on 88 books for the month, and I needed to get to 89, so I only had 11 books to read in December to kind of level myself out a little bit more. So I decided to pick up and reread Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. This is the 1.5 novella in the Solitaire series. I guess it's a series if this is a 1.5, which basically follows Nick and Charlie in their relationship around the time of finishing school, where because Nick is older than Charlie, he's about to go off to university, but Charlie is feeling really anxious about that, and this book is full of angst. This is obviously a reread. I read it first as an ebook, but I wanted to reread this not only to get my Goodreads goal up, but to appreciate the new illustrations that are part of this book as a physical format. However, I originally gave this book a 4 stars and I've lowered it down to a 3. There was so much angst in this book, so much miscommunication, a typical YA book basically, that I just don't think needed to be in there, because if you just spoke about it, you wouldn't have any of these issues and it would all be fine, and you wouldn't have 150 pages of nonsense drama. I still love Nick and Charlie, so I still gave it 3 stars, but I definitely bumped it down because I think I'm just growing out of YA, as I keep saying. I just don't like the miscommunication angst thing of books anymore. It just frustrates me. So I enjoyed reading just about Nick and Charlie. I love their relationship. I love them as characters. I just don't think this book was all that amazing because of the amount of miscommunication in it. So yes, those are the 9 books I read in November. I'm really sorry the lighting has got really shit near the end of this video because the sun came out and then it went in and now it's really dark again. I really need to invest in a ring light. I hate filming in winter, it's just absolutely horrendous. But anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys here. What books did you read in November? Have you discovered any late favourites like I have with Head Over Heels? Because I know we're coming up to the end of the year. What books are you planning to read in December? Let me know in the comments down below what your favourite book was in November. And without further ado, I will see you in my next video. Make sure you give this video a massive thumbs up. and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I do all the type of bookish content your heart could desire, so I definitely be sure to stick around so you can see more of that. And I have a really fun, exciting video coming up that I'm going to film just after this one. So keep your eyes peeled for that one, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.